All right, today we are diving into a teaching that thousands of years ago just completely turned society's view of its youngest members on its head. It was this radical idea that took children from being seen as, well, property and turned them into paragons of faith. So let's get right into it.
So, the big question is, why was this message about children so revolutionary? I mean, to really get the shockwave this sent through society, we have to go back in time. We have to try and see the world through the eyes of the people who first heard it. Because for this story, context is absolutely everything.
Okay, let's set the scene. In the first century Greco-Roman world, childhood was not the cherished, protected thing we think of today. Honestly, for most kids, it was a time of real vulnerability, just a precarious existence with a future that was anything but certain.
And this is where you see that stark contrast. The common view, the standard operating procedure, was that children were basically property. There was this legal principle, pater familias, where a father had almost total authority. So children had low social status and few, if any, rights of their own. But then, this new perspective starts to emerge, and it just flips that entire idea on its head. All of a sudden, children aren't objects anymore. Now they're symbols of faith, they're models of humility, and they're individuals who deserve protection. I mean, that was a truly radical shift.
This new way of thinking, it really gets captured perfectly in one unforgettable moment. It's a pretty simple story, but its impact was so massive, it became a cornerstone of this whole new teaching. Let's take a look at how it all went down.
So imagine this. There's a crowd gathered, and these hopeful parents are trying to push through to bring their kids forward for a blessing. But the disciples, the inner circle, they just see the children as a distraction. They think there's more important stuff to do, so they try to wave them away, which honestly was a completely normal reaction for the time. Kids were often just seen as getting in the way. But then, in this really powerful moment, Jesus stops them and corrects them. And he doesn't just welcome the children, he says that the kingdom of God actually belongs to people who are like them. In a single sentence, these kids are transformed from being a nuisance into the actual model of what faith should look like. Now that powerful moment wasn't just about being nice to kids, not at all. It was a teaching moment, and it was just packed with these fundamental lessons that would ripple out through history. This one interaction gives us three huge lessons. First, humility. Adults are told they need to become like children. That completely reverses the power dynamic. Second is trust. A child's simple, unwavering confidence, that's held up as the ideal faith. And finally, value. Every single child has intrinsic worth and deserves to be protected. The takeaway here is massive. Children aren't just supposed to be tolerated, they're meant to be emulated. So what does this genuine faith even look like? Well, it's not about having all the answers or engaging in complex theological debates. It's much simpler. It's about a total, uncomplicated trust. The exact same kind a little kid has for their parents. It's a faith built on reliance, not on pride or thinking you can do it all yourself.
The impact of this story went way beyond that one afternoon. It was like a seed was planted that would grow into a totally new way of understanding childhood itself, creating a legacy that's lasted for centuries.
So this really boils down to the paradigm shift, right? A child goes from being seen as property to being seen as a person with dignity. They go from being an obstacle in the road to being an example for everyone else to follow. It was a complete and total reversal of the social order.
Ultimately, what we're really looking at here is the birth of a whole new ethic. This teaching laid a moral groundwork that would eventually shape laws and social structures, pushing this idea that protecting the vulnerable, especially children, is one of our most important duties. It didn't just change a few minds, it set the stage to change the world.
And that kind of leaves us with a question for our own time, doesn't it? For our own complex and often cynical world, what can we learn from the kind of humility and trust this message champions? What would it look like for us right now to try and approach the world with the faith of a child? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.